Do you dare to accept a job that costs your sanity, where you are buried alive in a vertical grave amidst an unforgiving ocean, and loneliness transforms into a monster that devours you slowly?
As for you, before we begin this deep and calm journey, leave your mark on our channel by hitting the subscribe and like buttons so you can easily find our content next time. And now, take a deep breath, close your eyes, lie down, and let sleep creep in.
Many of us dream of escaping, fleeing from the noise of cities and the clamor of daily life, and the chatter of humans that never ends. We imagine that solitude is paradise, and that living in an isolated tower in the middle of the sea is the pinnacle of psychological peace. But have you really thought about what the word isolation meant in the Middle Ages? Imagine yourself now, not in your warm room, but standing on a slippery black rock in the middle of a freezing, unforgiving ocean. You are inside a damp stone tower built hundreds of years ago, and you hear the sound of the wind howling like a hungry wolf outside, hitting the walls with a force that makes your bones tremble. Your only mission is to keep the fire flame lit at the top, because its extinguishment means death for lost ships, and means death for you too. There is no electricity, there is no heating, and there is no companion. Only you and the sound of waves crashing against the rock, and the cold that sneaks under your skin slowly, and the pitch darkness that surrounds you from every direction, where your mind begins to play terrifying games, and shadows turn into ghosts, and silence becomes louder than noise. In this documentary, we will discover why your fragile human psyche will not last for more than one night in this job, and how the lighthouse keeper transforms from an employee into a prisoner in a cell without bars. But before we lock the tower door on ourselves, place a quiet like and subscribe to the channel to ensure that you are not alone in this journey. And now close your eyes, feel the warmth of your bed, and let my voice take you far away to that isolated rock, where there is nothing but the sea and the wind, and sleep. Welcome to your new home, or let us be more accurate and call it your vertical grave. For before you dream of sitting and contemplating the romantic sunset, you must understand the architecture of the place where you will be imprisoned. This lighthouse that you see from afar as a beautiful white candle is in reality a huge pile of cold granite stones stacked on top of each other in a primitive way to withstand waves weighing tons. And this means one thing only: there are no windows. Yes, the wide glass windows that you see in movies are a luxury that did not exist. For in the Middle Ages, the window means a hole through which death and freezing water enter. So, you will live your life inside a dark stone tube that the sun does not reach except through very narrow cracks resembling dungeon cracks, designed only to throw waste from them or to cast a quick look at the external hell. Let us talk about the interior decor. The first thing that will strike your senses once you enter is not the view, but the smell. For the lighthouse from the inside is a closed and permanently damp environment. The stone walls sweat constantly because of the difference between the coldness of the outside and the heat of your breath, creating a sticky layer of mold and algae that grow on the internal stones. You will breathe heavy air saturated with the smell of rotting salt, and the smell of the burning wick, and the smell of your woolen clothes that never dry, It is a very special aromatic blend that guarantees you a chronic headache from the first day, as if you are living inside a lung infected with pneumonia. As for the biggest physical challenge that will make you curse the moment you accept this job, is the stairs. Imagine a very narrow spiral staircase made of rotting wood or slippery stone, winding around itself for hundreds of steps, reaching the top. This ladder is not a means of transportation, but it is a daily torture machine. For you do not climb it once, but you have to climb it and descend it dozens of times daily, carrying on your back heavy bundles of firewood and slippery oil jars and provision bags. Your knees will scream from pain, and your leg muscles will stiffen, and if your foot stumbles on one broken step, well, the trip to the bottom will be very fast and deadly, and no one will hear your screams except the rats that share the accommodation with you. And speaking of roommates, do not think that you are completely alone, for dampness and darkness and food scraps make the lighthouse a luxurious tourist resort for all rodents and insects in the area. You will sleep on a bed that is a wooden board raised slightly off the ground to avoid seawater that might leak, furnished with a bag of rotting straw that has become a colony for fleas and lice. You will feel them moving under you, and perhaps they share the warmth with you on cold nights, and you will learn with time to ignore the sound of rats gnawing as they steal your stock of dry rusks, because you are simply too weak and too exhausted to chase them. And here we reach the bitter truth. In this tower there is no such thing as rest, for the noise never stops. The sound of winds whistling through the cracks resembles the screaming of wailing women, and the sound of waves hitting the base of the tower makes it shake with light and continuous vibrations that make you feel seasickness while you are on land. You will live in a state of constant anticipation, afraid that the storm might uproot the wooden door at the bottom, or that the roof might collapse over your head. You will realize in your first night that this structure was not designed to protect humans, but designed to protect the flame only. As for you, you are merely a biological spare part capable of replacement. Your only function is serving the fire until you burn or die of cold. Now that you have trapped yourself inside this stone tower, it is time to get to know your new manager at work. And he is not a human wearing a suit, but he is a ravenous creature with a moody temperament that is never satisfied, the fire. Your main mission, on which you will spend your youth and health, is keeping this giant flame at the top of the tower alive and luminous. It might seem a simple task, but in the Middle Ages there were no LED lamps nor electricity switches, but the fire was a real monster that must be tamed every minute. Let us talk about the fuel of this little hell. For you do not light a few sticks of romantic firewood, but you are responsible for burning a whole forest every month. You have to carry tons of wood or coal, or worst of all, barrels of oil and animal fat. Imagine the smell of whale blubber or pig fat burning slowly, a pungent, greasy and heavy smell that sticks to your clothes and your hair and your skin until you become yourself a human candle reeking of burning wherever you go. Your hands will turn into a piece of permanent blackness because of soot, the coal dust that does not go away no matter how much you wash. And you will spend your hours scooping sticky grease with your hands to pour it into large vessels, while thick black smoke fills the narrow room, and burns your eyes and coats your lungs with a layer of tar, giving you a chronic cough that will be your loyal companion in nights of loneliness. And the challenge does not end at providing fuel, but in protecting the fire from its sworn enemy, the wind. For in those ages, lighthouse rooms were not closed with polished and tight glass as we see today, but were often open or covered with poor glass and iron grids. And when a storm blows in the middle of the ocean, the top of the tower turns into a battlefield. The winds roar and enter from every crack, trying to extinguish the flame with all their might. And you, the miserable keeper, must stand with your body as a human shield, trying to place wooden boards to block the wind and watching the air direction and its change. You spin around the fire like a madman to close a side and open another, while flames dance threateningly, and one stray spark might burn your woolen clothes or burn the wooden stock and end your life in seconds. But the maximum punishment in this job is not hard work, but it is sleep deprivation. For fire is a spoiled child that cannot be left alone ever. You cannot set an alarm and sleep for 8 hours, because the flame might fade or oil might run out, or sparks might fly. So your life will turn into a series of terrifying naps, stealing 10 minutes of sleep while sitting on an uncomfortable wooden chair next to the fire, then waking up terrified with cold sweat covering your forehead, imagining that the fire went out and that ships crashed because of you. Your eyelids will become heavier than rocks, and your mind begins hallucinating from extreme exhaustion. You will see shapes in the smoke and hear voices in the crackling of firewood, and your desire to sleep will turn into an impossible wish, for you are the keeper of the light, and the light does not sleep, so you must not sleep either. And if you were lucky, and the lighthouse was slightly advanced, you might also be asked to polish the reflecting mirrors. They are polished metal sheets placed behind the fire to reflect light, and because of the thick, greasy smoke, these mirrors get dirty every half hour, and you have to wipe them and polish them constantly while choking from smoke to keep them shiny and reflecting light to distant ships. It is a vicious circle of carrying firewood, pouring oil, wiping soot, and fighting sleep. You spin and spin and spin all night long until dawn peaks with its cold blue light, for you to fall fainting from fatigue, while the sun rises to perform your work instead of you for a few hours, before darkness returns and the monster returns to demand food again. After long hours of wrestling fire and carrying firewood, your exhausted body will tell you that the time has come to eat food. And here begins a new tragedy no less cruel than the cold. In this isolated tower there are no markets, nor farms, nor refrigerators to keep fresh food. You live on emergency stock left for you by the ship months ago, which is food designed to remain edible for years. But the price is that its taste and texture became closer to building materials than to human food. Let us start with the main and daily dish, sailors' biscuits, or what is called ship's bread, a solid lump of flour and water baked several times until every drop of moisture was pulled from it to prevent rotting. The result is a very hard disc, harsh as flintstone, to the point that you cannot bite it with your teeth, or else they would break immediately. The only way to eat it is breaking it with a hammer or a knife handle, then soaking it in broth or salty water for a long time until it softens a little, and turns into a sticky paste without taste that blocks hunger but kills the soul. And there is a small surprise living inside this biscuit, for because of long storage in humidity, often this bread becomes a colony for weevil worms and small beetles. You will practice a disgusting daily ritual before eating, holding the piece of biscuit and knocking with it on the table several times to watch worms falling from it, then closing your eyes and eating the rest quickly, trying to convince yourself that what remains of weevils is just free extra protein. As for meats, the only available option is salted meat, pieces of beef or pork preserved in wooden barrels filled with coarse salt until they turned into what resembles an old shoe sole. Its color is pale gray and its texture is woody, and to be able to eat it you must boil it in water for long hours to try to get rid of the deadly salt. And yet you will remain eating something salty to the degree that makes your tongue crack, and you feel an unquenchable thirst as if you swallowed the sea itself. And speaking of thirst, this is the grand paradox. You are surrounded by millions of gallons of water, but you cannot drink a single drop of it, and your stock of fresh water in wooden barrels begins to rot after weeks, and green algae grows in it, and its taste becomes stale, and its smell foul. So the only solution was drinking weak beer or water mixed with vinegar or rum to kill bacteria, which means that you will spend your service period in a state of constant dehydration and light dizziness. Do not drink to quench thirst, but drink to stay alive only, and with the complete absence of fresh vegetables and fruits from your stone table, a terrifying ghost will begin to appear slowly. Scurvy, vitamin C deficiency that begins with general weakness and severe depression. Then your gums swell and become soft like a sponge and bleed at the slightest touch, and your teeth begin loosening and falling out one after another. You will look in the rusty metal mirror to see your face paling and your eyes sinking, and the smallest wounds in your hand will become incapable of healing. You will turn slowly into a real ghost. Your body crumbles from the inside while you try to maintain the cohesion of the lighthouse from the outside. You dream of a green apple or a fresh lettuce leaf as if it is the most expensive treasure in existence. But all that is in front of you is the salty sea and the stony biscuit and the darkness that does not end. On normal days, the sea is a slightly annoying neighbor, but when winter arrives and polar storms decide to attack, the ocean turns into a raging monster that wants one thing only: bringing you down. And the story begins not with sound, but with sensation. For before the storm hits, you will feel a sudden drop in atmospheric pressure that makes your ears ring, and you will smell a strange smell in the air, the smell of ozone mixed with heavy salt spray, as if the sea takes a deep breath before screaming in your face. And when the party starts, you will discover a terrifying truth about your stone lighthouse that you thought was stable as a mountain. It moves. Yes, under the weight of giant waves that hit the base with a force equivalent to thousands of hammers, the solid tower will begin vibrating. Not a violent vibration that throws you to the ground, but a malicious and continuous rhythmic trembling you will feel in the soles of your feet, and you will see the oil surface in the lamp rippling, and you will hear the sound of stones rubbing against each other, a muffled and terrifying cracking telling you that the tower groans under pressure. and that your whole life hangs on the extent of cohesion of this old corroded mortar. But the real horror does not lie in the base, but in the summit, in the flame room. For in those ages, windows were not made of modern reinforced glass, but were often sheets of thin mica, or plates of pressed animal horns, or mere heavy wooden shutters. And when winds intensify to crazy speeds, this fragile barrier becomes all that separates between you and disaster. And suddenly, and without prior warning, you hear a horrific wooden crashing sound. One of the shutters has dislocated or broken, and the monster stormed your room. In 1 second, the room turns from a warm shelter into a cold, watery hell. Winds enter with the force of a hurricane, roaring with a sound that deafens ears, carrying with them freezing water spray and wood splinters, and their first goal is the fire. The flame will begin disturbing and dancing madly, and black smoke rises to suffocate you. And here you must forget your fear and forget your coldness, and turn into a suicidal fighter. You have to jump with your body to block the broken gap, pushing a replacement wooden board or even your rotting bed mattress against the air current that tries to push you back and throw you into the sea. You will stand there for hours, your muscles burning from tension and your fingers freezing and losing sensation in them while holding the temporary barrier, and salty water drowns you from your head to the soles of your feet, tasting the taste of salt and blood from your cracked lips, and hearing the sound of the fire behind you whispering, hiss, whenever a drop of water touches it, threatening to extinguish and drowning ships in darkness. You will feel that you are very small and very trivial in the face of the overwhelming nature's anger. You will scream, asking for help, but your voice will melt in the external howling, and you will have no supporter except your desperate prayers and your weak hope that the sun rises and the sea calms down before your powers collapse and you fall. And in those long moments like eternity, you will wish if you were anything else other than a lighthouse keeper. You will wish if you were a poor farmer sleeping in a stable mud hut, or a prisoner in a dry cell. The important thing is to be in a place that does not move, and a place where water does not try to kill you every minute. But there is no escape. You and the flame and the storm are imprisoned in one cage, and survival is for the fittest. After the sea calms down and the storm stops and waves return to their monotonous, boring movement, the last and most terrifying chapter in the lighthouse keeper's life begins: psychological warfare. For the real enemy in this isolated tower was not cold, nor hunger, nor even high waves, but it was your mind. That human mind that was designed to live in groups, and to see faces and to hear voices. And when you deprive it of all this, it begins eating itself. In the first weeks, you will start talking to yourself with a loud voice. You will justify that by verifying tasks. Did I put the oil? Yes, I put the oil. But with the passing of months, the monologue will turn into a full dialogue. You will start giving names to the rats that share the room with you, and talking to the fire flame as if it is your only friend, telling it about your childhood and about your fears, and you might wait for a reply from it. And the major calamity happens when you hear the reply, actually. Here begins the stage of auditory and visual hallucinations. Because of total isolation and carbon monoxide poisoning resulting from burning oil in a closed place and constant seasickness, Your mind will start inventing an alternative reality. You will see shadows moving in the room's corners, and you will swear that you saw a face looking at you from the window, although you are at a height of 40 meters and there is no one. And you will hear in the sound of wind whispers of people you know, perhaps your mother's voice calling you, or the sound of children's laughter, or singing of imaginary mermaids inviting you to descend to them. You will become obsessed with ghost ships. You will stand in the balcony for hours, staring at the dark horizon and seeing lights of non-existent ships, waving to them and screaming to warn them. Then you discover that you are waving to sky stars or to the moon's reflection. The dividing line between truth and imagination will erode, and you will not know if you are awake or dreaming. Did you eat today? Or was that yesterday? Did a year pass or 10 years? Time in the lighthouse is not measured by the hour, but measured by the extent of your soul's erosion. And in the end, most keepers are afflicted with what is called cabin fever or lighthouse madness, a state of severe paranoia and melancholic depression makes the keeper look down to the black rocks and white foamy waters and feel an urgent and crazy desire to fly. He hears the sea calling him to save him from this stone prison, to save him from responsibility and from cold and from the sound of wind that does not fall silent. And many new keepers who came to receive the shift found the lighthouse lit and the door open, and the old keeper has disappeared, leaving behind him a cup of tea he did not finish drinking and one hanging question: did he fall or did he jump? The job of the lighthouse keeper in the Middle Ages was a heroic sacrifice, not only of time and effort, but of mind and soul, for the human to burn slowly, to light the way for others, and save ships that will never know his name. And now, as we leave this dark tower, and leave the ghosts of keepers behind us, thank God for the blessing of your home's warmth, and for the blessing of safety, and for the blessing of your presence among humans. If you like this cold and quiet journey and want more stories that take you to the edge of sleep, do not forget to place a like before you doze off and subscribe to the channel to be our permanent companion. Close your eyes now completely. Get rid of all your thoughts. Listen to the sound of your quiet breath and imagine that you are extinguishing the lighthouse flame to sleep in peace. Good night and dreams free of storms. And now do not forget to press like and subscribe to the channel immediately to be the first to hear the coming nightmares that we are preparing for you. Now close your phone and turn off the lights. Sleep well.